The meeting room will come to order. We are now holding an official meeting of the Gillette FFA chapter. Madam Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call the roll of officers, determine if they're at their stations, and report back to you, Mr. President. The junior advisor.
Stationed near the owl,
Your duties there.
just as knowledge and wisdom are paramount for organization, so too is the pursuit thereof. My duties are to assist the advisor in coordinating chapter programs and grow organizations through education.
The historian.
Stationed by the chapter scrapbook,
Your duties there.
tradition and history are a source of pride for the organization. It is my duty to maintain a record of chapter achievements and promote excellence through highlighting activities, events, and accomplishments so that our chapter membership is motivated by our past success and looks to for future accomplishments.
The sentinel.
Stationed by the door,
Your duties there.
Through this door pass many friends of the FFA. It is my duty to see that the door is open to our friends at all times and that they are welcome. I care for the meeting room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the meeting room comfortable and assist the president in maintaining order.
The reporter.
Stationed by the flag.
Why by the flag?
As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people that every man, woman, and child may know that the FFA is a national organization that reaches from the state of Alaska to Puerto Rico and from the state of Maine to Hawaii.
The treasurer.
Stationed by the Emblem of Washington,
Your duties there.
I keep a record of receipts and disbursements, just as Washington kept his farming house, carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among the members and strive to develop our financial standings through savings and investments. George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent.
The secretary.
Stationed by the ear of corn,
Your duties there.
I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretaries wherever corn is grown and FFA members meet.
The advisor.
Here by the owl.
Why by the owl?
The owl is a time-honored emblem of knowledge and wisdom. Being older than the rest of you, I'm asked to advise you from time to time as the need arises. I hope that my advice is always based on true knowledge and ripened with wisdom. Madam Vice President, why do you keep the plow at your station?
The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. My duties require me to assist in directing the works of our organization and preside over meetings in the absence of our president, whose place is beneath the rising sun.
Why is the president so stationed?
The sun is a token of a new era in agriculture. If we follow the leadership of our president, we shall be led out of the darkness of selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Mr. President, all officers at their stations.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. FFA members, why are we here? To practice brotherhood,
honor agricultural opportunities and responsibilities, and develop those qualities of leadership which FFA's membership possess.
Thank you. May we accomplish our purposes. I now declare this meeting of the Gillette FFA chapter duly open for the transaction of any business or attention to any matter which may properly be presented. First off, we would like to welcome you to our annual chapter speech contest. Just in a couple minutes, we will get started with the creed speakers. Are the judges ready?
Yes.
Our first creed speaker tonight will be Brandy Odekoven.
The FFA Creed by E.M. Tiffany. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturists, and the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that to live and work on a good farm, or to be engaged in other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging. For I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life, and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which, even in hours of discouragement, I cannot deny. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. I believe in my own ability to work efficiently and think clearly, with such knowledge and skill as I can secure to help others, or for others as well as myself, of progressive agriculturists to serve our own and the public's interest in producing and marketing the product of our toil. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. In the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so for others as well as myself, in less need for charity and more of it when needed, in being happy myself and playing square with those whose happiness depends upon me. I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to the best traditions of our national life, and that I can exert and influence myself in my home and community, which will stand solid for my part in that inspiring task. Thank you. Any questions?
I would like you to just describe to me what you see, what role FFA will play in your future.
What role FFA will play in my future would be to help speak for myself, because I've never been a very good speaker, but I know that many people who have speaking issues, if they go to FFA and they try hard, they'll become more accomplished later in life.
In the second paragraph, it says, I know the joys and discomforts of agriculture life. Can you describe for me or for us what you think are the joys and discomforts of
There are many
agriculture?
joys and few discomforts in agricultural life. Some joys would be being able to see calves grow, animals grow, and they're born. Discomforts could be hard work and labor, but it all pays off in the end because you get a really good object out of it.
We will give the judges 1 minute before the next speaker.
Yes.
Our next speaker will be Nicole Mason.
The FFA Creed by Untitled. I believe in the future of agriculture. A faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by present and past generations of agriculturists. In the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that skill can work on a good farm, which can engage in other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging, for I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life, and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which, even in the house of Scrivener, I cannot deny. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. I believe in my own ability to work efficiently and think clearly, and with such knowledge as I can secure, and in the ability of progressive agriculturists to serve our own and the public's interest in producing and marketing the product of our toil. I believe in more power and less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. Life abundance and enough honest wealth to help make it so. For others as well as myself, and less need for charity and more of it when needed. With being happy myself and playing square with those whose happiness depends upon me. I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to the best traditions of our national life, and that I can insert and influence in my home and my community, which will stand solid for my part in that inspiring task. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Can you describe for us what role FFA will play in your future?
I plan to use the knowledge I can learn from FFA to go towards my scholarships and help with the military if I can join.
In the second paragraph it says, I know the joys and discomforts of agriculture life. Can you describe to us what you think the joys and discomforts are in agriculture?
It's basically challenges that you can In my opinion, it's joys that you learn from FFA, but also can bring challenges to your life from FFA. Like, some kids can have school-related work, but also FFA. That can bring a discomfort to them, knowing that they might miss something very important from FFA while they're doing school. And the joys are, you get to do a lot more stuff and learn more about life than most teachers and scholars can learn.
Thank you.
Our next Creed speaker will be Della Woodward.
The FFA Creed by E.M. Tiffany. I believe in the future of agriculture, with faith born not of words, but of deeds, achievements won by present and past generations of agriculturalists, in the promise of better days, through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that to live and to work on a good farm, or to be engaged in other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging. For I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life, and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which in hours of discouragement I cannot deny. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. I believe in my own ability to work efficiently and think clearly with such knowledge and skill as I can secure. And in the ability of progressive agriculturalists to serve our own and public interests in producing and marketing the product of our toil. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining, and the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so for others as well as myself. And less need for charity and more when needed, and being happy in myself and with those whose happiness depends upon me. I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to the best traditions of our national life, and that I can exert an influence in my home and community which will stand solid for that inspiring task. Is there any questions?
Can you describe for us what role FFA will play in your future?
FFA will play a big part in my future because it will teach me to work with my animals that I have, like my steers and my pigs that I show for fair. And it will teach me more confidence in life and a lot to stand in front of people and talk and be a leader.
In the second paragraph, it says, I know the joys and discomforts of agriculture life. Can you describe to us what you think are the joys and discomforts?
Some of the joys are they are like you're working with animals and the things that you love, and some of the discomforts are the obstacles that you have to face and you have to overcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last Creed speaker for the night will be Eilish Kelsey.
The FFA Creed by E.M. Tiffany.
I believe in the future. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturists. And the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that to live and work on a good farm, or to be engaged in other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging, for I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life, and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which, even in hours of discouragement, I cannot deny. I believe that in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. In my ability to think clearly and work I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. In my ability to work efficiently and think clearly with such knowledge and skill as I can secure. And in the ability of progressive agriculturists in producing and marketing the product of our toil. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. In the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so. In less charity, I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. I believe, I'm sorry, excuse me. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. In my ability to I'm sorry.
If you want to start from the top, you can, if that helps you get through that.
Okay, let me restart this thing. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturists, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. And the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years. I believe that to live and work on a good farm, or to be engaged in other agricultural pursuits, is pleasant as well as challenging. For I know the joys and discomforts of agricultural life and hold an inborn fondness for those associations which, even in hours of discouragement, I cannot deny. I believe in leadership from ourselves and respect from others. I believe in my ability to work efficiently and think clearly with such knowledge and skill as I can secure. In the ability of progressive agriculturists to produce, for myself as well, excuse me. Produce and market the product of our toil. I believe in less dependence on begging and more power in bargaining. In the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so, for others as well as myself. In less charity, and less need of charity and more of it when needed. In being happy myself and playing square with those with those whose happiness depends upon me. I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to our national, I believe that American agriculture can and will hold true to the best traditions of our national life. and that I can exert an influence in my home and community which will stand solid for my part in an inspiring task. The FFA created by E.M. Tiffany.
Can you describe for us what role FFA will play in your future?
The role FFA will play in my future is, well, it'll build up my leadership and responsibility and my speaking abilities, which, as you have noticed, I'm not very good at it. And it will help me gain more confidence and help me prepare for life as an adult. And I get to show in more classes, so.
Okay, in the second paragraph it says, I know the joys and discomforts of agriculture life. Can you describe to us what you think are the joys and discomforts in agriculture?
The joys and discomforts of agricultural life in my life would be discomforts when you have to go out in the middle of the night when it's snowing because your animals are lambing or calving, or when you have an old animal that you have a very strong connection with that is no longer able to live. And when you're having problems with grades because you have too much going on and you have to drop some of the agricultural activities that you have to do, that you want to do. Joys in agricultural life, being out with your animals, meeting people at other events, stock shows, contests, county fairs, meetings, and going out to see your animals, because they are there for you and they're with you when you're down and out, and they don't disagree with you, they don't argue with you, and they don't get mad at you very often, and they're more understanding than people are sometimes. And it's exciting, I believe, that when you can work together with your animal in showing or everyday life. I'm a big horse fan, and to win at shows or just to go out riding, working together is a big part of it. You can't let your horse bully you, and you can't bully your horse. 1,200-pound animal, but we can still control him. And I found that really exciting and fun. So those would be, oh yes, and another joy is having baby animals around the house. It's so fun. And those, I believe, are joys and discomforts of my agricultural life. Thank you.
We will now take a short intermission between the creed speaking and the prepared speaking. Are the judges ready for the prepared speakers?
Yes.
All right, our first prepared speaker for the night will be Sam Benjamin.
Imagine being home from work, taking off your cowboy boots, wearing a nice warm cotton sweatshirt on the couch. Then going to sit at the dinner table with your family with some of your favorite foods in front of you. You talk about your day at work with your husband or wife, and you talk about school with your kids. What you don't think about is how much that food went through to get on the table in front of you. You go to the grocery store and you throw things in your cart, but you don't think about the science behind food. You see, over 80% of Americans are upset with farmers for spraying DNA chemicals on their food, even though everything they learn in high school says DNA is in everything and has been since the beginning of time. They listen to the people who say otherwise. They listen to the people who say all the other misconceptions about agriculture, and they don't think one thought at all. Now you see, everything you do or like, at least somebody will have something to say about it that isn't true or that's bad. For example, oh wait, I'll restart that. For example, some people think brown cows make brown milk, or brown eggs are better for your health, but in reality, all cows make white milk, and all eggs have the same nutrients on the inside, no matter what color. So why do people believe these are true about agriculture? Like farmers are spraying DNA chemicals on their food. They wouldn't hire an electrician to be a doctor. He has no clue what he's talking about. So why would they listen to people say things about agriculture if they aren't industry experts? That's where people go wrong. They believe anything they read off the internet or anything they get told by another person. One of my favorite misconceptions about agriculture is that farmers are uneducated. I took a college ag business class, and it had just as much information in it as any other college class. In the class, students were able to learn math, land management, and many other useful skills. Farmers are just as educated as any other person in school. And running a farm or ranch is a lot of hard work. There are many myths about agriculture, such as to protect your kids from getting cancer, feed them organic peanut butter. Everything you eat is protein for your body. Your body doesn't know where it comes from, so it's all treated the same. Or another myth is, if it's natural, it's healthy. This also isn't true. All drugs like nicotine or heroin are grown on plants, and last time I checked, this could do some pretty bad things to your body. So why do people believe these are true about agriculture? It all comes down to two things. One, the ignorance of the public. Their lack of knowledge on the subject will make them believe anything anyone tells them. 25% of Americans didn't even know the earth revolved around the sun. And they didn't care enough to look. We live in a generation where information can come to our fingertips in 0.5 seconds. But people don't always use this to learn the truth. Most of the time they use it to settle an argument between them and another person. So if people believe you for saying that, if they read something on Facebook, they wouldn't look on a reliable internet source. So if someone wrote on Facebook, farmers are spraying DNA chemicals on their food, they'd believe it. They wouldn't switch their app on their phone from Facebook to Safari to research if it's true or not. They wouldn't try to remember that in biology they learned DNA is in everything that lives, and it acts as a blueprint for the cell and just tells it what to make. No, they'll believe it, and they'll get mad, and they'll tell others farmers are doing this bad thing to their food, and they will request to put a vote. They will request a vote to put a warning label on all food with DNA in it that reads this: warning, this product contains DNA. The Surgeon General has determined DNA is linked to a variety of diseases in animals and humans. In some configurations, it is a risk factor for cancer and heart diseases. Pregnant women are very high risk for passing DNA on to their children. Is this true? Yes, but not because of the food, because of our ancestors' genes. If our great-grandma Joe has a heart defect, and she passes it on to her daughter, and she passes it on to her son, and he passes it on to his kids, then yes, they have a huge chance of getting this heart defect. But if they eat a banana, they cannot get its DNA. And pregnant women are going to give DNA to their children. That one makes them look alike. They might get your bright blue eyes or your blonde hair, but they also might get the defect in their heart. My grandma had breast cancer, and she survived. My mom had a huge possible chance of getting breast cancer, and so did my sister and I. But I could not get it from a potato I ate when I was 10. If people did research on these topics, they could learn, instead of getting mad, they could learn these simple facts. Second, people could use the internet to their advantage. Instead of complaining about things, Instead of complaining that if people could get out the great news that agriculture is evolving into something big and great, instead of complaining about things, instead of complaining that they can't produce enough food to feed everyone in the world, they can look on the internet and see enough food is being produced. People just don't have the money to buy the food. Or instead of complaining that farms smell bad, they can get out the great news that they have found a way to make waste on farms into energy. How cool is that? Instead of freaking out about people, if people were educated on these topics and tried to learn more, to expand their knowledge on different topics and share them with different people, this would be a much smarter country. The good thing is, our generation is becoming more advanced. We have more ways to learn things we didn't have the technology to learn in the 1800s. We have more ways to spread news about agriculture and show people more about the production of food. We have our equipment used to produce these things are becoming more advanced too, so we can produce more than one thing at a time. I believe FFA is a very strong organization and can show the world more about agriculture and how their food is made. I believe agriculture is needed now and will always be needed. And even if the public get upset with farmers for spreading DNA chemicals on their food, they can learn from this, and they can learn more about agriculture as they learn. Our chapter can teach them more about agriculture and FFA and what we do. I have fallen in love with this organization, and I think if our chapter tries, other communities will fall in love with it too. Even if the public thinks agriculture isn't important or it doesn't have a future, it does. And I believe I can show them that and show them more about agriculture, so that we can show them where their food comes from and how it's made and the science behind it. If people put their ignorance to the side, they will know everyone in the world needs agriculture. Without it, you would have a nice table to sit at with all the wonderful food, and you wouldn't have, your family going to bed starving would be a normal occurrence for you and your family. You wouldn't have the clothes on your back or the shoes on your feet. Nobody deserves a life without a family. Thank you. Is there any questions?
My first question is, so as agriculturalists, how do we go about educating the public? How do we get this information to them in the 0.5 seconds that you tell us we need to?
Well, since now everybody pretty much is always on their phones, even when they're driving, we can show them on Facebook and Twitter, and we can show them the equipment we use, and they can appreciate things more. Or we can show them the of things that aren't good and things that are good, so they realize farming is more than just making food. It's not making clothes and shoes, because leather does not just come out of nowhere. It comes from a cow. And the cotton sweatshirt you have, it comes from sheep, from the wool. And I think if people learn this and we show it to them, then they will appreciate farming a lot more.
Thank you.
Do you plan on, in your future, is this educating the public going to be part of your future? What you plan to do in the future?
I want to be in fish and game, so they kind of do show more about animals and stuff, not really like ranch things. Like I have a steer, and I will bring it to fair later, and I can put it on Facebook and show people that I have friends with in Michigan more about agriculture, so they can learn, and they can show, like my aunt's my friend on Facebook, and she can show her friends about agriculture and tell them how much I fed it and how to make it that big and where the hamburger came from. I think that's how you can spread it around. It's just a bunch of families showing a family, showing another family, showing their friends.
How could you improve yourself, tell the truth about DNA chemicals on food?
I could probably talk more to people at my school or say things on the intercom and inform people more about agriculture. And we can show more communities, like I can show more communities by teaching some people things in different communities so they can go and show their school. And then they can go and show their school, and then the whole Wyoming area can show their school. And so when we go to state, we can teach people, and then people that make it from state to nationals can teach people in those states, and we can just get together in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next prepared speaker will be John Scott.
Did you know that Wyoming produces 40% of the U.S. supply of coal? The way that we produce all of that coal is through the process of surface mining. Surface mining is the process of removing overburden to reach the coal seam. The way they remove overburden is through the use of high explosives and heavy equipment. There is one predominantly main used high explosive that we use in this area. It is ammonium nitrate fuel oil, ANFO, or ammonium nitrate emulsion. When using these explosives, you may have irregularities of detonation, which include improper stemming, loss of confinement, and water problems. If any of these events occur during a detonation, orange smoke can occur. This orange smoke is nitrogen oxide gas. This gas is harmful to residents that live near a coal mine because this gas causes respiratory irritation and headaches. This is one of the many reasons why people who believe in using other sources of energy and stop using coal. Another reason why people want to use other sources of energy other than coal is when we burn coal in a coal-fired plant, it produces a whole bunch of pollutants, and that is another reason why they want to get rid of coal. The first energy source I'd like to talk about this evening is hydroelectric power. Hydropower has been used for centuries. Greek farmers used it to grind wheat into flour. The first hydroelectric power plant was built in 1878 at Niagara Falls. This power was used to power street lamps in the area, but the first official hydroelectric power plant was built in Appleton, Wisconsin. There are three main parts of a hydroelectric power plant: the power plant itself, a dam, and a reservoir. The pros of this energy is that it's a renewable energy source, it's green, reliable, flexible, and safe. The cons of this energy is that it's expensive to build. The amount of energy that is produced is affected by drought, and there's a lack of suitable reservoirs for this operation. The next energy source I'd like to tell you about this evening is solar power. Solar power is the process of converting sunlight into energy through the use of a solar panel. The solar panels are made out of the solar panels are made out of cells that are made out of semiconductor materials. The way that we actually get energy from the solar panel is when the sunlight hits the panel, the electrons are split from the atoms, and when the atoms continue to move, when the electrons continue to move through the panel, that is how your energy is produced. The pros of this energy is that the technology is improving. It has many applications. It is low maintenance, and solar energy is sustainable. The cons of this energy is that the materials that are used to build the cells are very exotic materials. when they actually build the panels, greenhouse gases are produced, so it's associated with pollution, and it's very expensive to purchase. The next energy I'd like to tell you about this evening is wind power. Wind power is the process of converting wind into energy through the use of a wind turbine. The way that this is achieved is when the wind turns the propeller, it is connected to a shaft which is connected to a generator, which produces your power. The pros of this energy is that it accounts for 2.5% of the world energy production, and it is steadily growing at 25% each year. And operational costs are low. The cons of this energy is that it is dangerous to wildlife, especially birds. I believe that we should continue to use coal as our main energy source because we already have the coal mines are already in place, and we don't have to spend a whole bunch of money building and finding everything that we would need to put together so we can use the other energy sources like I've said this evening. And all the irregularities of detonation, which I've already said, which I've already spoken about, the improper stemming, the loss of confinement, and the water problems, they can all be fixed fairly easily. I hope that I've stated enough information for you this evening so you can form your opinion on this matter because it's a very controversial issue in the area that I live. Thank you.
Do your future plans include anything about energy development?
Yes, ma'am. When I'm older, after I get out of the military, I was hoping to actually become a welder in the mine or be a haul truck driver. So, yes, ma'am.
I want to know, you explained the various types of energy, and I want to know their impact on agriculture, like which one has the least and the most impact on production ag.
I believe solar power will probably have the least impact because you're not really, I believe you're not really taking much land out of the equation with the solar panel, and as compared to like the hydroelectric power plants or the wind farms. And then I believe that the hydroelectric power plants and the wind farms kind of are equal because you're still taking away from one ecosystem. Like with hydroelectric power plant, you're using a reservoir, and when you're using a wind farm, you're just taking up a whole bunch of land that could be suited for that could be used for other things other than just the wind farm. So.
And then the second part I want to ask you is what regulations are there with those various types of energy that affect like agriculturalists? Are there any that you know of?
I didn't study that far into it, but I believe there are some, depending on which energy you're talking about. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
In what ways do you think can further improve the energy production in the United States?
As in?
Better as for like environments.
Well, for like a coal fire plant, there are systems that are being produced that you could input at that power plant that could reduce a lot of the emissions that are produced, and the end product is generally steam, I believe. So that is one. I can't really think of any other ones because I think they already kind of. I think people who believe in using alternative forms of energy kind of already agree with the systems that are already in place for like hydropower and the wind farm. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Riley Darrow.
For many years now, horse slaughter has been a very controversial issue in the United States because some people see this majestic beast as a companion animal, while others see this majestic beast as a livestock working animal. Today I'm going to talk about some general facts about horses, the history of horse slaughter, the economic effects, the lies and exaggerations out there, the pros, cons, my opinion, and my solution. First, I want to start with some general facts about horses. Horses are a livestock animal just like cattle, pigs, sheep, goats. They are also bred for work, whether it's ranch work, racing, pulling, or any other thing. Also, horses are a dangerous animal. Whether you have a calm, nice one or a psychotic one, horses can injure you and can kill you. Also, horses are private property, meaning the owner has the right to do with their horse what they please. Also, horses can become crippled, which comes with a hefty vet bill. And the cost of owning a horse is $80 to $100 a month. That's just basic costs of feed. That doesn't include vet bills, vaccinations, having their teeth loaded, having the farrier come out, shoe them. So horses can come with a very hefty price. Some of the history on horse slaughter is horses have been slaughtered since the beginning of time for consumption. It's depicted in many cave drawings around the world. Horse meat is actually considered a delicacy in many countries, as well as recommended for those with high cholesterol in many countries due to the fact that it is a leaner meat. Horse slaughter they are euthanized the same way as cattle in most places, and that is with a bolt gun, just like cattle. And horse slaughter was officially banned in the United States September 21st of 2007. 2007 was also the year that the horse market tanked. The higher valued horses dropped in value 4 to 5%. This drop was even more dramatic for horses in the lower to medium value range. That drop was 8 to 21%, which does not seem like a lot, but when you're talking about thousands of dollars, it can be quite a chunk of money. Also, the number of kill buyers in the United States has gone down because it is no longer legal here. And our export of horses to Mexico and Canada has gone up over 660%. What they do is Mexico and Canada send kill buyers down, and they buy our horses for 25 to 35 cents a pound, turn around, take them home, slaughter them, and sell them overseas for roughly $20 a pound. That's over a $19, they make over $19 a pound, minus travel costs and all that. And because, due to the lack of kill buyers now, abandonment and neglect has gone up over 50%. Some lies and exaggerations put up that HSUS has on their website. They have a list of common misconceptions about horse slaughter, and they have a couple questions on there. And I want to talk about two of them. The first one is, has ending horse slaughter in the U.S. led to fewer options for disposal of horses, causing neglect and abandonment to go up? HSUS claims no, because the option still exists in Mexico and Canada. However, they don't count that it doesn't, the Mexico and Canada buyers does not make up for the lack of U.S. buyers. So there are fewer options to dispose of sick, crippled, or just unwanted horses. The second question I want to go over is, can the federal government ensure the safety of horse meat? HSUS claims no, because the USDA does not have a system put in place. While this is true, they fail to mention the fact that it's due to the USDA not having funding for this particular system. As when horse slaughter was banned, so was all their funding to ensure the safety of horse meat was taken away. Some exaggerations is on their website. You'll also find an ad that says Each year, more than 100,000 American horses working, racing, and companion horses, and even children's ponies are inhumanely transported long distances in cramped trailers without food, water, or rest. Then they are brutally slaughtered and their meat is shipped overseas for human consumption. The majority of these horses are young, healthy animals who have led productive lives would have led productive lives with loving owners if they'd been given the chance. However, they don't like to look at the fact that now that it is banned here in the U.S., those horses are being transported even longer distances into Mexico and Canada to be slaughtered. And due to the fact that horse traders make more money rehoming horses than they do selling to kill buyers, that cuts down on the amount of good horses going to slaughter. See, horse traders make, if they sell their horse for even a low price, such as $1,000, that's still double the amount that they would make at selling them for 25 to 35 cents a pound. So overall, there are a lot of pros to horse slaughter, such as the horse market would come back up, helping out horse breeders and anybody involved in the horse industry. It would bring neglect and abandonment back down because they'd have a better option for getting rid of their unwanted horses. It'd bring the number of crippled and psychotic horses out there down because they'd be going to slaughter instead of being taken care of by people where they can injure those people. It'll bring our exports down, and it'll bring the amount of money put into the economy by the horse market up because instead of Mexico making the $19 a pound, the United States will now be making $19 a pound. However, just like any issue, there are cons. One of the cons is that the government did pull USDA funding, so they do not have the means to ensure the safety of the meat. However, if the funds are granted back, then they will. Because without these funds, it makes people quite skeptical. Also, when the horse slaughter market was first brought about, it was not regulated as it should have been. Like we regulate the cattle market or any other market we have. So my opinion on horse slaughter is that I believe that it should be legal. I think it'll bring the market up and bring abandonment and neglect down. I believe that due to the fact that traders make more money rehoming, that the amount of good horses going to slaughter will be limited. I also believe that they are private property, and as an owner, you have the right to sell your horse to a kill buyer or not, if you personally do not like the idea. I also believe that people who have never been around horses, never been around the horse market, and have never had anything to do with it should not have a say over how it's run or whether it should be legal or not. And I also believe that doing it here in the U.S., it'll be more humane than if we just have it in Mexico and Canada, because if it is here on U.S. soil, we have the right to regulate it. And I don't think that there's a problem. They're slaughtered the exact same way as cattle, and people don't complain as much about the slaughter of cattle being inhumane. I believe that it is the same concept. My solution is I believe that it should be ran just like the beef market. Same regulations, same everything, and that the USDA should be giving funding to monitor the market as well. I hope, based on the facts that I presented, you in your own mind can form your own opinions on this very controversial topic. Any questions?
What do you see as who do you see as the biggest roadblock in trying to move with your solution? Where do you see the roadblock?
I see the biggest roadblock is people who support HSUS and those type of organizations who haven't really been around horses and been around like necessarily the agriculture industry, because they form their opinions based on what they see. And if they don't see the other side of it, then they can't form an opinion based on all the facts.
I want to know what countries consider horse meat villains.
European countries for the most part. like France, especially.
Okay, and I want to play devil's advocate for a second and say, if we don't like their meat, why do we want to slaughter them?
That is a very good question. Simply because horses can be used for many other things. Like we can export their meat to those who do find it a delicacy, and they can be used in dog food, and they're a multi-purpose animal. We wouldn't just be slaughtering them for their meat, for human consumption. It'd be for other animal consumption.
If horse slaughter in the United States come back into effect, what regulations, what you might think would be on horses, such as the cattle, the hog market?
Like trailering regulations, where they can only be in a trailer for so long, and the humanity of how they're treated at slaughter, and making sure that they're being humanely killed, like using the bolt gun. I swear there were some places who didn't use the bolt gun, and they used less humane ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker will be Abigail Bradford.
My speech was on animal rights versus animal welfare. Animal rights versus animal welfare has been a big topic in the U.S. for years now. As an entire country, this puts a split in our country. Animal rights believe that people should not have that animals have the same rights as humans. In this, humans would have no interaction. Along with that, there are people who believe that people should have the use of animals for human benefits. In my speech, I will be telling you about what animal rights believes, and along with what animal welfare believes. Also, along with my speech, I will be telling you about what I believe in and why. Animal rights believes that both humans and animals are equal and deserve the same as each other. Animal rights is working to end all animal exploitation, such as slaughtering livestock for human and animal consumption, rodeos, polo, TV, sports, movies, for zoos, research, etc., also as companion animals. Animal rights, there are many groups that believe with animal rights, and the main one is PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. PETA believes that to stop all use of animals from humans. Also, there is HSUS, which is the Humane Society of the United States. PETA's most recent campaign was to McDonald's, children at McDonald's, frightening children to not drink the milk. Along with that, HSUS says that ants and humans have the same ability, same life. The life of an ant is the same as a human's. PETA states that even if animal research found a cure for AIDS, that they would still be against it. Along with most of those groups, the groups lie and
They use vandalism, assault, they mislead you, and do not tell the truth. One of these groups, most of these groups are the underground animal rights groups. One, for instance, is the Animal Liberation Front. The Animal Liberation Front is considered a terrorist by the FBI. These groups do these actions such as violence, assault people, vandalize, and show them that treating animals wrongly is not what you should do. To me, I do not believe that people should try and lie to people to get them to believe what they believe. Another group would be animal welfare. Animal welfare believes that animals should be, it is okay that animals are used for the benefit of humans as long as they are treated fairly. In these cases, animals can be used for companion animals, for rodeo, for 4-H and FFA show animals, to sell these animals, etc. But animal welfare also helps to protect these animals. Animal welfare is working to stop shark finning, capturing of dolphins, and commercial whaling. Animal welfare is also trying to stop the factory farms that are doing harm to these animals and promote family farming that is, and humane transport and slaughtering of the animals. With most of these actions, people work their hardest to protect these animals. And animal welfare is what most people believe in. With my side of this would be, I wish I could say it was mutual, but in these cases you can't choose mutual because you have to choose one or the other. I do not agree with animal testing, but if animals weren't tested, who would be? I mean, people aren't going to go and offer themselves to be tested, but if there are people that do offer themselves to be tested, why do we not take advantage of those people and test on those people? That saves one animal at a time. Along with that, we could also make it more humane. So say a rat. A rat was tested with this cosmetics that was supposed to prevent acne. Well, it turned out a bad acid or mixture was in the cosmetic and it burned the animal's skin off. Well, then after that, they just shoved the animals into boxes. Instead of doing that, why do we not make a better home for these animals that make it more comfortable and more like cozy, I guess you can say. I don't know how much better you can make it for the animals after they go through this traumatic thing. The animals are defenseless to the humans that are testing them. In most of these cases, I do not believe with some of the things that animal rights does, because who does not like to eat meat? I love meat. I don't know if that was how I was raised, but that's what I believe completely. I like to have eggs in the morning for breakfast and bacon, and at night I like to have potatoes and steak. I don't know, that's just how I've always been. Animal rights puts out there that you should not have any of these things. You should not have milk, you should not have dairy, none of these things. And what kind of person would like to have those things? But also you have to respect those people that do. Between the two, you have to choose one or the other, and I do not also agree with animal abuse. Well, I agree with rodeoing. Well, most people think that rodeoing, roping a calf, that's animal abuse. Well, that's basically when you have to choose between the two in which you believe in more, which in my case, it would be with animal welfare. It's all just a matter of this and that, and it's all almost a game of choosing between which one you believe more. It's honestly an iffy situation in what you have to choose with, because you have, oh, do we test on these animals, hurt these animals, and maybe the testing will kill the animals, or it'll hurt the animals. Well, none of this is happening to humans, so it's okay. Well, there are also those other people that believe that no, that is not okay, because they're just like we are. We are all animals. There's nothing we can do about that. That's just who we are. So in these cases, it's honestly what you decide that you love more. Is animal rights okay, or do you believe in animal welfare? In times, I think it'll come where there's going to be laws that will be made towards the animal rights, because if they're trying to get their word across, they do not need to do the things that they do. They lie,
just those kinds of things. You can get your word out better than lying and harming people and doing things that basically are illegal that make them think that you are a terrorist. So in these cases, you kind of have to choose between which one you believe more, and in my case, it would be animal welfare.
How would you tell a person your story, like a brief, positive story, on how animals are not mistreated in agriculture to have the public agree with you?
To have the public agree with me, I would give them positive outlooks saying, well, where do you get your food from? Well, we don't treat these animals badly when we give them a home, we feed them, we have fun with them, we exercise them. Not necessarily exercise them, but when you run around with them and you play with the animals, then you're basically exercising them. To tell somebody that we're not harming them, you would give them the positive things you do. You say that you were there to help the calf after when the mom was dying and she couldn't have her animals, so then you were there to help that calf. Well, then you raised those calves, or then bum lambs, and you had to be there and you had to act like the mother or the father of those animals. You raised it from the time that it could not walk to when it started to learn to walk, all the way up to when it was old enough and big enough to go to sale barns, well, to get slaughtered. Well, then you tell them, you have to basically agree to them and tell them that, earn their trust, telling them that taking them to these, they're not, the things that they see on slaughtering animals aren't necessarily how it is. Most of the slaughtering of the animals is a fast, like, bullet gun to the head, which is very quick and less painful. So, I don't know, I guess that's how I would explain to them.
Okay, I'll ask you a multi-part question. So my first part is, do you consider people that work in animal testing facilities, do you think they're concerned about animal welfare?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I believe that yes, because they are the ones who have to go and see, well, I don't know, because they are obviously doing the testing and not knowing what's going to happen to the animals. They are basically going against, and they're not treating the animals fairly in ways like shoving them into boxes and putting them in less places where it'll make the animal go crazy. Then no, they're not going with what animal welfare is going after. They're basically just ignoring the fact of that. And then, yes, they go for it because in ways there probably is some testing researches places that treat the animals fairly and put them where they need to go, and if they're harmed, they take them out of their misery.
Is there any regulations that those testing facilities have to follow to be considered humane?
Yes and no. I think the more ones that more people know about, yes, because everybody's looking at them when they're testing the animals. But in a way, there's no way you're going to be able to not know how the product is going to treat the animal unless you do it.
Okay. Now I want to switch to ag. Do you consider agriculturalists animal welfare activists?
Yes, I do. Because animal welfare with agriculturists, they work to help animals. They raise the animals. They show animals, they give them companion. They show them love. They treat them with respect. And then, yes, it hurts them in ways to let those animals go. But in a way, they know the fine line between, abusing an animal and then being wrecked with an animal.
Do you think we have a problem locally, and by locally I mean Wyoming, with the extreme animal rights people?
No. I think that we do not, because there are so many people in Wyoming that are so ag-related, and they know, and there's so much that, with FFA and 4-H and all that, everything that goes on, I think that many of us know what it's like, and we know that we need the food, and we know what we have to do to help these animals, but yet to help ourselves.
Thank you.
We will now take a short short break to give the judges a chance to decide on winners for the prepared contest. All right, we will now announce the results of the Creed contest and the prepared speaking contest. For Creed, as a chapter alternates moving on to the district contest, or not moving on to the district contest, for coming in third, is Eilish Kelsey. And then the two that will be moving on to the district speech contest are Della Woodworth and Brandy Otokovic. If you two would please come up here and receive and shake your officers' hands. For the prepared speaking contest, the chapter's alternate is John Scott, with the two moving on to districts as Abigail Bradford and Riley Darrow. We would like to thank Cinnamon Lenhart, Lex Gear, and Irma Kearns for coming tonight to judge the speech contest. If you could all give them a round of applause for And we'd also like to thank all of you for coming and attending the speech contest to watch all of the hard work of our members. That will do it for our chapter speech contest this year. We would encourage all of you to come back next year and watch the speeches again. Madam Secretary, do you have any record of any further business which would probably be transacted?
The only business I have is that it's Tony Winter Holler's birthday today, so if we could all wish her a happy birthday.
Does any member know of any new or unfinished business which would probably come before this meeting? We are about to adjourn this meeting of the Gillette FFA chapter. As we mingle with others, let us be diligent in our labors, just in our dealings, courteous to everyone, and above all, honest and fair in the game of life. Fellow members and guests, please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for